Welcome everyone to the February board meeting for Ignite CDA. If you would stand and help me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Scott, I want to put your microphone down a little bit. Now it's time for public comment. Any public comment, please come forward. State your name, please, and address.
Good evening, board members. My name is Megan O'Dowd, address 703 East Lakeside Avenue in Coeur d'Alene. Our law firm, Lyons O'Dowd, represents Tom and Teresa Capone. And we're here tonight to provide comment on the Midtown Ventures project. So we have received a copy of the revised plan dated February 10, 2020. As I'm sure everyone here knows, the Capones own the restaurant located at 751 North 4th Street. The lot, and it's actually more than a lot, but the property located immediately north of that, which is commonly referred to as 811 North 4th Street, is encumbered by a parking easement that grants my client certain priority parking rights over this property. Prior versions of the Midtown Ventures project did deny my clients of their property rights in various ways. There was sometimes green space over the parking lot. Other times the proposal included so many residential lots that public use of these spots would not exist. So I'm here tonight to comment on the revisions in this plan and how it affects the parking rights at issue. So from a straight visual perspective, my clients are pleased to see that the green space has been moved and no longer encumbers half of the property at issue. And there are 20 proposed parking stalls here, including one handicap spot. So with the caveat that a few terms could be clarified in any subsequent development agreement with Midtown Ventures, my clients are prepared to support this project. So I have written those terms down and provided them to Director Burns earlier this afternoon, but I'll read them to you as well just so you can be aware of what we're trying to achieve here. The first is that to ensure that the intent by both Midtown Ventures and Ignite is to indeed comply with the terms of the 1999 parking agreement, we'd like that to be expressly recognized in the development agreement. We'd also like there to be a condition within the development agreement that clarifies that this parking area cannot be used for storage of construction materials or equipment during the year-long process or so that it would take to build out this commercial project, except for when the actual 20 spaces are being developed, obviously. And we'd also like in the development agreement for there to be explicit recognition that the 20 stalls will not be dedicated for the residential structures that are being proposed, but indeed will be open to the public, and we would like an express recognition that they're subject to the 1999 parking easement. And then the last request that's being made is that on all visual representations prepared both to your agency and other public entities such as the City of Coeur d'Alene, we'd like there to be an express reference to the 99 easement on the lot in question. And the goal here is to not get anything except for what my clients are entitled to under the 99 easement, to make clear that these parking rights exist and there's no intent by anyone here to violate those. So I'm open for questions. Otherwise, I direct the board to Mr. Burns, who has a copy of our written request.
Board members, I just want to remind you that we are under threat of litigation from the Capones, so I would encourage you not to provide comment.
Thanks.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, if the conditions that we propose are included, my clients are supporting this project, and thereby the threat would go away. Thanks.
Any additional public comment? Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the January 15th, 2020 board meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any corrections, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. Presentation by the Midtown Ventures LLC. Mr. Butler.
Good afternoon. I'm going to have Eric Hedlund and his staff present the project, and then if you have any questions later, I'll be here to answer them.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, this is our fourth or fifth turnaround of this project, and I think we've done a pretty good job of representing what John wants and what Midtown wants, and we've now gone from a four-story building down to a three-story building. We moved the park over from the corner, and it's larger than it was before, so we're almost at 5,000 square feet. We have created 20 parking spots with the one handicap that legally should be there right now to accommodate the junk building that's there at 811. So we kept that there, primarily for the use during the day for the park. One goal we want to do is that parking lot right now has no softscapes whatsoever. It's all just asphalt and concrete. So we created the buffer here to put some landscape in, some trees, and then buffer it from the residential parking. So the current square footage is around 6,000 square feet for the current parking lot. The new parking lot would be 6,800 square feet, so it's actually larger than it was now. The current behind the building right now is no parking. It's been posted no parking, never parking behind the building. So we just kind of left that out. It's if you look at the behind the building right now, it is posted no parking. So all of our residential parking is behind the building. We have 33 spots. We're only required to have 24. We have 24 units with a possible 2 additional units on the main floor that could be used as a manager's office or something like that. John's still trying to decide how we're going to do that. The building still now it's much smaller. We tried to create it where it still didn't look like one massive building. Forgive me, I'm not using windows right out this way. So right now, currently, we have all the commercial storefront on both sides on facing 4th Street with possible 2 restrooms that could be used for all the commercial or not be built at all. We wanted to create storage units for tenants, so bikes weren't all left outside and all stuff on their decks and whatnot, so it didn't become an eyesore from the street. These are those 2, you can see them faint right here, 2 possible 1-bedroom units for manager units. Because we think it's going to be a very popular location and rental. And then we go up to the residential, and we have 12 units per floor, still with the elevator. All the units have a terrace except for 2 on each floor. And then, so we created this, Nate and I created this building to try to make it look like 3 different buildings versus one large building. And, as John has mentioned, the process has been a little more expensive to construct, so we try to efficiently redo the structure so it's a little easier to build. And this is kind of like almost from our office looking directly at the building, where the green space is still out front. And I think you'll see minimal parking than you do right now. And then again, straight across the street. So it came down, it's approximately about 6 to 8 feet below the height limit now instead of being over the height limit. And then this is obviously looking back down south from 4th Street. Or, on the backside looking over down north,
I guess, northeast. So I think we've accommodated everything. The Midtown folks came in and met with somebody in my office and said they much preferred this plan over the previous one in scale and location. So I think, we haven't heard anything else from them. So I think we've accommodated everything that everybody wanted. I don't know if you guys, that's,
A question?
sure.
What efforts did you make to reach out to the stakeholders besides inviting them to the office?
I sent probably, I don't know, 10 emails asking them if they wanted to come in. And really never got a response until a couple weeks ago that they were putting a letter together. I never received it. And then Art stopped into our office, and that's the only communication we've had besides a few negative emails from the previous taller version.
How many attended the office, the presentation there?
Nobody ever, they never said they wanted to come in for a presentation.
No one came into the Midtown, to your offices to view this?
I think, I wasn't here, you were here, Nate? Yeah.
I can speak.
I was in the office the day they came in.
Basically, when we went in and we talked
Art.
about scheduling a meeting.
Art, you have to come up to the microphone, please.
Excuse me. I came in and met with.
Wait a second.
I came in, okay. I came in and met with the design staff, and we were putting together a meeting, but at that first meeting, they said they were redesigning it. So until they had a fixed design, we decided not to hold an open house or have a meeting with them. And we've decided to hold off until tonight's presentation, where we had a public presentation because of the design parameters. If we can walk that back to the first thing, have radically changed over the three designs, from a building set far to the south, a few yards to the north, and now significantly off the junk store property. And listening to the previous testimony about that lot becomes completely free encumbered for this project. So at this point, our initial review that they gave us an email with a new plan, and we went in right away and said, the comment of this new building that I've been receiving has been good. It's come down from 4 stories, doesn't require the height strict modifications. We'd like to see a public presentation of it. We gave them some feedback. It doesn't really require a lot of critical feedback, just more, less cosmetic. Suggested more bike parking on the south end. If that's a green space, biking is a community activity. There are bike lanes on 3rd that would be easily accessible that would need bike rack parking. Capone's would benefit from that. In addition, we also said, I talked to Jim and said, how about some electric car charging stations? Let's make this a place where if you're going to bring people into town that got Teslas or other Fords, Chevys, or whatever, they can charge their car while they have dinner. And now we've got the plan, now we can make comments, and there's a few comments about that, but they're not very serious.
Okay.
In terms of that. We've held off till we had a factual design. Why make a meeting and have a comment when the building isn't going to be the way it's designed?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any other questions?
Comments?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well done. I have one question, Scott. Tony, is there, based upon this design, is there still the lot line adjustment on the north end that's necessary?
Yes,
And how many feet is that?
just over 2,000 square feet.
2,000 square feet?
Yep.
Okay.
And we won't lose any parking spots with that lot line adjustment because there's a wide travel path there already.
Right.
So,
I know that, but I just wanted to make sure that we're still on the same
Yeah.
page there. Okay, thank you.
so Mr. Chairman, I would look for a motion from the board. I kind of drafted one, if I could maybe suggest a motion here.
Please do.
To accept the Midtown Ventures LLC Midtown project design modification as presented, reducing the project's building footprint from 4 levels to 3 levels, and moving the public green space from the corner of 4th and Roosevelt northward, thus retaining a surface parking area footprint on the corner of 4th and Roosevelt. Also directing the executive director to continue with the process of the A&E, which is the agreement to negotiate exclusively that we're in right now with Mr. Butler, towards effectuating the DDA, which is a disposition and development agreement, which requires a fair use appraisal and so forth, so, as a suggestion.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just happy to see it get here.
Yes.
Been a long journey, but I think it's good.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, motion carries.
Great.
Congratulations. Now it's time for committee reports. Finance Committee, Commissioner Arman. Well, bear with me because we got a long report tonight, so. Starting out with the balance sheet of the Lake District. The Lake District experienced a $845,843 increase in cash assets from December month end due primarily to a significant tax increment deposit from the county. Receivables due from the Atlas District, $1,034 increase from December month end, reflecting the Atlas District share of G&A costs. Fixed assets, no change. Other assets, the Lake District 2016 Series Note Reserve Account had an increase of $79 for the month of January. Liabilities and fund balance, accrued sick leave, new line item reflecting Ignite CDA employer personnel policy implementation on 10/1/17. For the bonds, the 2016 note, $884,118 decrease due to the February 1st, 2020 payment. The 2017 note had a $119,222 decrease due to the February 1st, 2020 payment. The math was $925,222 note payment offset by an $806,000 note draw. So the net was $119,222. All other liability parameters are either unchanged or normal for the month, including a 2% credit to the due to arts line item due to the county increment check received in January. The Lake District P&L, the Lake District received $2,789,829 in tax increment revenue from the county in January. Agency-funded initiatives, the Atlas Waterfront Project had $805,797 total. The breakdown, Welsh Comer Team, $51,200. T. La Riviere Contracting, $754,597. CDA 2030 fiscal year 20 contract payment of $25,000. Professional fees line item includes district costs for fiscal year 2019 audit. Debt service interest expense 2016 note $23,084 per the February 1st, 2020 payment. The 2017 note $63,436 per the February 1st, 2020 payment. All other P&L expenditure line items are in line with a normal operating month. Moving on to the River District balance sheet, the River District experienced a $773,259 increase in cash assets from December month end. The Atlas District, a receivable of $6,100 increase due to additional loan funds to the Atlas District for mill site project work. Liabilities and fund balance, all liability parameters are either unchanged or normal for the month, including the 2% credit to the due to arts line item due to the January county increment check. The River District P&L, the River District received $801,798 in tax increment revenue from the county in January. Agency-funded initiatives, the Stimson Mill Site Atlas Project Phase 1, $8,834 for the Welsh Comer team. Professional fees line item includes district costs for fiscal year 2019 audit. Debt service interest expense for the 2019 note, $961 per the February 1st, 2020 payment. All other P&L expenditure line items are in line with normal operating month with 45% of G&A cost share expenses. The Atlas District balance sheet assets, the Atlas District experienced $1,255 increase in cash assets from December month end due to additional loan funds from the River District as well as an increment check from the county. Liabilities and fund balance due to the arts was a new line item. Due to the River District, $6,100 increase due to additional loan funds received from the River District, and due to the Lake District, $1,034 increase for G&A costs. Now moving on to the Atlas District P&L. The Atlas District received $1,172 in tax increment revenue from the county in January. This is the first revenue that the Atlas District has received in. Agency-funded initiatives, the Stimson Mill Site Atlas Project Phase 1, $5,167 for the Welsh Comer team. Professional fees line item includes district cost of fiscal year audit. All other P&L expenditure line items are in line with normal operating month with 5% of G&A cost share for expenses. So that is the financial report for this month. At this point in time, we'd like to have, do we have Renata here? There she is. Would you like to come forward and make a presentation on what you're asking for?
Sure, I'll bring my cohort.
And Jeff, you can come too. You're not back there working.
So I don't have a formal presentation for you, so no fancy PowerPoints today, but I'll just get to the meat of the matter. The city of Coeur d'Alene operates the CDA TV studio. We have a contract with Jeff Crow and his company to run the studio. And we've been approached with TDS, a new company in town, to provide us an additional government channel on their services, but we would need to upgrade to HD quality. Right now, we're in standard definition quality, and we broadcast to Spectrum, and they give us a channel on their services to the people that are contracted with them. We also air our stuff on Facebook Live and through the website, but for those people that have television services that they're watching it on, they can only get it through Spectrum at this point in time. So this would open up another opportunity to get information and news out to our community. So we are looking at about $18,750 worth of upgrades to the studio. And it's something we're going to need to move forward to at some point in time. Spectrum hasn't been on the boat to give us an HD channel yet. But for those services that we are on Facebook Live and things like that, you will see much better quality on spreadsheets that are put up on the big screen that are broadcast through our channel through HD. We think it's a good deal and just another opportunity to get information out there. So we've been collecting some capital funding from some of our partners with the City of Hayden and NIC over the years, as well as Ignite, and we just have a deficit of about 1/3 of the cost. So we're looking to you guys to help us out with that upgrade and those costs. Jeff is very diligent at finding things on sale and putting stuff together for our studio, so it may come in slightly less than that $18,750 estimate. So at this point, we don't have a solid cost, but we are looking for a bit of a commitment for 1/3 of the cost from you all for your consideration.
So the total cost would be $6,666, is that correct?
Based on our $18,750 estimate, and that is subject to change a little bit, we think in the downward direction.
Okay.
And if you have questions specifically on HD and things all studio related, Jeff Crow can answer those.
And if there's
for
a
you.
reduction in cost, is it going to come out of that $6,666?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely.
Other questions?
I'm not sure I want to be seen in HD.
It will show all of your blemishes, et cetera, et cetera.
That's what I was going to ask. Is this going to make us look any better?
Well, for an additional $6,000, we could purchase the handsome filter. Apply that, so your choice.
Or we could have a makeup room.
Yeah, there you go.
How about just making us look younger?
I know a person.
Other questions?
Looking for a motion for not to exceed $6,666.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Did you want to add the other 6 for the handsome filter?
No, we'll wait.
I think more than that.
That was not to exceed, correct?
Right, a not to exceed 4 sixes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks,
Thank
Renata.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to the payables. Okay, for the payables, first payable is to Elam and Burke, $904.20. General legal counsel, legislative issues was $220. And the Lake URD Health Corridor was $360. And out of the Atlas URD, the district initiatives RFP process was $324.20 for a total of $904.20. Holly Troxel, general legal counsel, public records request was $0, but general legal counsel was $770. From the Lake URD, the health corridor was $153.22. And from the Atlas URD district initiatives, the RFP process, $1,827 for a total of $2,750.22. Now we come with the semi-annual payments. Every 6 months, we have a long list, and here we go. The Chamber DDA all principal was $1,448.42. The Ice Plant IRA all principal, $26,230.52. The 609 Sherman Avenue Lofts IRA all principal, $14,853.09. Riverstone West Phase 1 OPA all principal, $193,004. Riverstone West Phase 2 IRA, $66,570.65, of which the interest was $14,606.97, and the principal was $51,963.67. The Mill River Seniors Apartments IRA, all interest, $5,569.29. The Riverstone West Apartments IRA, all interest, $5,882.34. Riverstone West Apartments 3 IRA, all interest, $2,830.24. The Circuit of Celtice IRA, $17,872.23. Broken out, interest was $4,552.34. Principal was $13,319.90. Washington Trust Bank Lake District Bond 2016 Series, first payment of fiscal year 2020 was $907,202.07. Breakout was $23,084.07 in interest, $884,118 in principal. The Washington Trust Bank Lake District 2017 Series Note first fiscal year payment for 2020 was $988,658.13. The breakout was $63,435.91 in interest, $925,222.22 in principal. The Washington Trust Bank River District Bond 2019 Series first fiscal year 2020 payment interest only, $961.40. And then the Coeur d'Alene Downtown Association Event Program first fiscal year payment of $6,250. Total payments on our semi-annual payments, $2,237,328.42. Moving on down to the City of Coeur d'Alene, reimbursement for 2 pedestrian rectangular rapid flashing beacons in Midtown for $11,152.49. Secondly, the reimbursement for lighting materials, poles, conduit, lights for the Midtown 3rd and 4th Street lots, $13,069.56. And just to show you how quickly we respond to things, for the high-definition broadcast equipment upgrades in community room, Ignite's contribution, $6,666.00, for a total payment to the City of Coeur d'Alene of $30,888.05. Lastly, the mill site, Atlas Mill Site Initiative, the Welsh Comer Team Amendment Number 5, Regulatory and Public Space Planning, was 0 this month. That's a 0. Welsh Comer Amendment Number 6, Regulatory and Public Space Planning, was $11,630.50. Welsh Comer Amendment Number 7, Waterfront Construction Services, $76,800. Welsh Comer Amendment Number 8, Public Phase 1 of Infrastructure Design, Final Plat, $49,898. And lastly, Tila Riviera Construction Atlas Waterfront Project, $1,200,240.15. Total, $1,338,568.65. All total for all payments this month, $3,610,439.54. So that's our expenditures for this month. That's my
Good
report.
job, Commissioner Arman. Good job.
Financials and payables.
I'll make a motion then to approve both the district monthly financials and also the approval of the agency payables.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Jordan, parking update.
All right, Mr. Chairman. Don't have a lot of activity to report to you. We didn't have a quorum at the meeting yesterday, but I'll give you an update on some parking numbers. So the overall parking revenues for January were $20,157, and that's up roughly $800 over January of 2019. And in our 2 parking structures, I'll go over the permits. We've got 212 permits. That's those monthly permits at McEwen. That's down 96 permits, but that actually was anticipated because of that rate restructuring to try and get more people to utilize Coeur d'Alene Avenue. And in Coeur d'Alene Avenue, we're at 265 permits. And in the Coeur d'Alene Avenue structure, where that secured area is down on 3rd Street there, we have 24 of those secured area permits right now. We're also going to be going to selling those monthly for $50 a month, rather than having to buy 6 months at a time to try and make those maybe more saleable. And also, on these resident parking permits, which the city council did such a great job on coming up with for our citizens, that's those $10 annual permits. We've issued 51 of those so far, and 28 county permits at $20. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Brad. Tony, Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to invite Phil Boyd up to kind of give the board an update on the Atlas Waterfront project.
Welcome, Mr. Boyd.
Thank you. Let's see, my presentation got moved around here, I think. Oh. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Kind of similar format as previous meetings. I'll just give you a synopsis and glad to answer any questions. So completed, and I say mostly, because there's always little bits and pieces to finish up. The mass grading, the mass earthwork movement is for the most part finished out there. Sewer and storm and water lines are completed, and the shoreline stabilization is mostly completed, which is great. On that last one, because the water, we've accomplished our water, near water work before the water really gets us. We did have a time in there where the water came up and we had to stop work for a while, but now we're back at it. The upcoming work, the buildings, both the restroom building and the storage/maintenance building the foundations are in, and they're starting to come out of the ground, and you'll see some pictures of that. It's interesting that they're actually going to start on the irrigation system next week, which kind of seems counterintuitive this time of year, but they're getting after it. The Riverstone to Atlas connecting trails, you'll start to see that also come out. That's that notch of trees that was removed between the upper area and the lower area. The landscape retaining walls will be moving on, those, and then water access steps as well. Vegetation obviously won't come in until later on in the spring. So I'll zip through a few pictures. I'm still kind of doing the before and after thing. So there's what it used to look like. That's what it currently looks like. These are still the rocks left to go in the landscape walls and the shoreline stabilization walls. You can see down here at what we call the inlet, there's a part of the foundation, and they're working on pouring those steps. And you can see over here they're working on continuing that shoreline stabilization through there. You can start to see the outlines of this is the walking trail, and then over here is the riding trail. Future Atlas Drive that comes off of Atlas Road at the roundabout comes down like that. And then these will obviously be homes in the future.
Phil, where is Block 13 on there?
Block 13, Area 13 is, I'll show you in the next couple more pictures. Yeah. So this is looking the other direction, what it looked like in December. And you can kind of pay attention up in this area. You see that there's the old soils, the very dark soils that were in that area, which were topsoils. And then this is what it currently looks like. And you can see we mined the topsoils out of there and essentially brought in beach material. And I use that term loosely because when people think of beach, they think of sand, but that would not be stable here. So because of the river flows, particularly during the spring runoff. So it's a boulder type material that's more stable. To Commissioner Arman's question, that Area 13 is right down in here.
Okay, thanks.
And then you start to see the parking lot comes up along this way. That's the restroom building coming out of the ground, or sorry, that's the maintenance building. This is the restroom building coming out of the ground. So the parking lot sweeps through here. This is the Prairie Trail in the background. and then Atlas Road comes up like this. You can see Suzanne, the extension of Suzanne, shaping up through here. They're currently putting in this picture, they were putting in some storm sewer, and then the road continues on down this way.
And the Area 13, is that where the potential restaurant?
It is, and I think one of the, either later today, probably tomorrow, we'll talk a little bit about some potential PUD amendments that we might look for the board's direction on whether we want to pursue a PUD amendment to modify what can be used on that site. Because the market is showing us something that we didn't anticipate. And as the board has said many, many times, we want to be nimble and adjust to the market. So that's one of the things we'll be asking for some guidance from the board. This is, again, a little zoom in on the beach area. And you can see here they're mining out what was a big mound. And then in this picture, you can see the mound is gone. And the beach material is put in here. This is the dog park. This is the beach area in here. It's hard to see, but I'll show you a blow-up picture of it. Right here is the accessible swim ramp. And right in here, you can see the rockery wall. This is where the accessible kayak launch will be. And you can see it's the river flow. When the water's up, the edge of the river will be right into here, and we'll wrap around this corner. The launch will sit out in here, but it's in a little bit of a protected area. So when you're getting into your kayak and launching, particularly if you might be disabled, you want an area that's a little quieter flow of water. So we tucked it back in what was a little natural inlet in there. This is construction of the rockery wall, and you can see the magnitude of the effort here. These are really substantially sized materials. This area is completed, so these are stream bed gravels. And this is the backfill that goes into the area. This will eventually get bladed back, and there'll be plantings put in here. And the excavator is sitting essentially where the walking trail will be. This is a shot looking back on the beach. So if you folks remember what this used to look like, it was covered with bushes, and the concept was just to restore what it was there originally. This is the old railroad grade here. And the beach area, there'll be picnic areas in each one of these areas, and then the shared use path through there. And you can see in the distance, they're setting the rockery wall.
Sorry to interrupt, but on that, while you're there, where would summer level be roughly in there?
It would be right about down there, so there's quite a distance in here.
Yeah.
This won't all remain beach, because it's a lot of beach. And so we've been looking at this with Bill a little bit, that there might be some thought about putting in some actual turf in here. Maybe not mowable turf, but something to soften the space up. There'll also be trees along in here, because otherwise it's just this big southern exposure that will get extremely hot in the summertime and not be friendly, you know, for folks to sit out there. But that's a deep beach. That's about 80 feet, 90 feet right there.
Yeah, would you anticipate any finer material there, or is it gonna be that fairly coarse
It's
stuff?
the trick there is we would like to put finer material in there, but we're worried about it just ending up in the river because of the flow that goes through there. What we are going to do is go through and run a tine through there to fluff it up a little bit. We compacted it because that's what stabilizes everything underneath. We'll run a tine through there, fluff it up, and then they'll pick out the big rocks in it. So probably things bigger than 6 inches will come out. But it's a challenge to size the material in there. With the engineer, the coastal engineer that worked on this and it's called a hydrodynamic analysis, sized the material in there, and that was our first reaction. It was very big, and he says, well, the science says that's how big it is. If you want to put it in a smaller one, you get to take ownership on that. And I don't want to own the beach disappearing. And it's similar to what you see at NIC Beach. It's just, it just needs to be fluffed up a little bit bigger material.
I don't know, NIC seems a lot sandier to me.
Some of it is, but it's also in some areas that the river flow isn't quite as fast as the river gets narrowed down through here. Yeah, we anticipate that reaction, folks. Why is it so rocky? And you're making a public investment, and you just can't take the risk of having the asset wash downstream, so to speak.
Is it possible to put a little sandier area up further away from the river so it doesn't wash down?
It's interesting you say that. We talked to Bill a little bit about that, and he's thinking about it. When the river comes up during flood stage, you can actually get water up into this area. The 100-year flood is somewhere up in here. And so you get in these recurrence intervals. Does Bill want to be in the business of replacing the beach every so often? Again, that becomes a maintenance issue and expense for him, and so he's reluctant to take on those expenses just because of his budget situation.
So is this on the tour tomorrow?
Yes, everything you see is here, yep.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to look at that.
This is the swim launch. They were actually placing the concrete today. And to give you your bearings here a little bit, this area, there'll be a trail that comes down here. So if you were in a wheelchair, you could come down here. This has a very slight grade to it. You can't see it very much for this picture. And then it gets into this point. You're in about 8 to 12 inches of water here. On the other side of that wall, you're in 2 feet of water. So when Bill and I had met with folks from the disabled community, we heard a variety of things that they want to be able to, some folks want to be able to wheel into the water. Some people want to be able to wheel to a transfer wall. If you've been to some public pools, they have what's called a transfer wall. So you can wheel up to this and transfer yourself to this wall. There's grips on it. And then you can transfer yourself into a couple of feet of water, and then you can get out into here and then, transfer yourself into deeper water. If you wanted to reel all the way into the water, you could continue on down there. There'll be rails on here. So you can wheel yourself down, and then if you want to come back out, you grab a hold of the rails and pull yourself out. And there's also a rail along the end here that would be, you couldn't wheel off the end of it. It would stop you from continuing on down. And there's landings in each of these areas, maneuverable, flat landings if you're in a wheelchair. Also think about folks that just might be in a walker or just need a little bit of stability to get into the water. Was the concept of this. All the rails are removable. So when Bill gets to the end of the swimming season, he'll go and pull all the rails out. When the water comes up, it's going to submerge this thing, so you don't want logs hitting the rails. And then when the swim season starts back up, he'll go deploy the rails. So we're hopeful. The feedback we've gotten from the community is that the disabled community is very excited about using this. Wrong direction. This is just another shot of them placing the concrete. That's it. Glad to answer any questions. And as I think most of you know, there were those that can make it. We're going to tour the site tomorrow while it's sunny and be able to see some more of this.
So is there any way to look at right now how you're coming in compared to budget?
Excellent question. We're below budget.
Good. Excellent answer.
Yes. Yeah. It's and we have encountered unsuitable soils back to these pictures here where we anticipated encountering some of them. It's really difficult to estimate what that quantity is. So we had put a budget in, but we've encountered way more than we had anticipated. And of course, they were in the worst of areas. Some of it were at the end of this parking lot right here. The other parts of it were right in this area where the road goes through. So we were going way over our budget for those line items, but I think the board remembers La Riviere had offered to start processing on-site materials, both the topsoil and the material that you're seeing in here. So we worked through those numbers with La Riviere and saved a tremendous amount of money. So La Riviere, on their original contract, we're about $50,000 under their original contract. Overall, the project is, in the $150,000 under the budget that the board had set for it. We think we've encountered most of the, we'll call them I won't use the term, but the unknown conditions, because once you get out of the ground, most of the unknown conditions, moving forward, we don't anticipate seeing a bunch of other things. And so I think talking with Bill, if there's opportunity to add more landscaping, that was one of the features that we were cutting pretty tight and thin to keep the project within budget. But now, as we're getting towards the end, I think he may be back to Ignite, we may be back to Ignite saying, we're under your original budget, and we would like you to consider allowing us to go spend some of it on landscaping, because that's where we had, I don't want to say shortchanged it, but really put the least amount of investment in the park area.
How's the mining going on Atlas Bluff?
It's going good. We've stopped for the most part because we've made enough topsoil material. We have been working with Steve Gillett, who's a partner of the city with DEQ with his brownfield money. He's doing some testing on the soils for metals content. We don't anticipate any, but it's going to end up in the park space, and you don't want, the city doesn't want, and we don't want any long-term metals liability down in the public space. So DEQ is testing that material with their funding to confirm there's no metals in it. So then we can use that material on site. And there's other opportunities in that whole Atlas Bluff area to continue to make materials. It gets kind of a complicated discussion because you would be investing money to make the material, but you may not see a return on the investment until you sell the materials. Tony and I have talked a little bit about it, but it would require further discussion with the board.
Thank you.
Now, is the Atlas Bluff the same thing as Mount Hink?
It is, yeah.
All right.
We're supposed to call it Atlas Bluff, though, because it sounds,
All right.
yeah.
Phil, could you go to your last slide? Right there. Is the Day Docks Marina down there, is that part, or did that get taken out?
That is taken out. Yeah.
So what would be the cost of that?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. For some reason, I think that this dock was in the $200,000 range. Docks are expensive to build. You obviously could make it smaller to fit within a budget that the board might choose to make it to fit into.
The reason I ask is because Area 13 up there might be more marketable if it had some kind of day dock parking.
Good point.
I mean, when there was no bids for it, is that correct?
Correct. We took it out of the scope of work.
Right.
When we had shown this image, and I probably should take the dock out of here, there was several members of the public that captured it as it was going in. It is, what will be there, and they noticed how it narrowed up the river here. So they were very concerned about that, contacted Bill Greenwood, and Bill explained it's just a concept. We haven't chased a permit on it. If it is something that you would be contemplating, we would need to go get an encroachment permit. It would not stay in that configuration. We would move it a little closer to shore, and it would come off in this direction through here.
Is there any grandfathering from the former mill site? Because there was actually some kind of access point there, wasn't there?
There was a landing there that they would, it was used for a long time by pulling barges up to it. In the title report that we looked at, we didn't see, and I've looked for permits through here, asked Department of Lands about encroachment permits, and we can't find any. I think back in the day, those things just happened by the upland property owners, so we don't see them in the record now. I don't anticipate it would be an issue to secure an encroachment permit from the state that didn't narrow up the channel for navigation issues, which, as you guys know, there's pilings that run all the way through here, which we're not removing as part of the project.
Yeah, whatever uses were there, they probably were in there before they had permitting, so that's probably long gone.
Yeah.
I've heard around $42, $43 a foot for concrete docks.
You would be, we're currently estimating docks at $65 a square foot.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm surprised at that. All right.
yeah. It's like a lot of things right now, the cost of materials and whatnot. And that's when we estimated, that includes pilings and all the different.
Yeah, that was just dock only, that
Yeah.
wasn't pilings and installation.
Yeah,
I agree with Mick, it would be nice if at some point there was funding available to do a scaled-down version of the dock there and have a day-use dock or something. I saw objections when we had the open houses, but most of that was, when I talked with people, they perceived it as having access taken away for private moorage, not necessarily with a day-use dock. I didn't hear the objections to that.
Yeah, the objections we've heard is just in the location of it in the channel.
Yeah, I could see
What
that.
would happen if you moved it a little further northwest?
In this area?
Yeah. So it's wider there.
It is, and
You got that little cove up there. If you went up there, you might have a little wider space in the river.
we could, part of the idea of locating it here was the proximity to the restrooms.
Sure.
And then also, sometimes these places become loading places for your friends and family. So you might go launch your boat, and then where you launch your boat, it's a challenge for your friends to park. If you think of Higgins Point gets filled up with, so folks will launch their boat there, and then they'll go pick their friends up somewhere along Coeur d'Alene Lake Drive, or go into town and pick them up there where there's more parking.
I'm just thinking if the concern is the narrowing of the channel, put it a little wider spot up there, and it would probably be less concern.
Yeah, that would add some benefit too back to the earlier point
Yeah.
about Area 13 here.
And you're still right on the park area there, too.
Yeah, and you'd wander down the trail and come to here.
Yeah. Just a thought.
Well, maybe if the, the long lead item to make those decisions are the encroachment permit. And so maybe what I'll do is speak with Bill about moving forward with the encroachment permit. We've done his encroachment permits for all the other facilities in here, so it's not a heavy lift to put that encroachment permit together, and size a dock that might be less than $200,000, and then just move forward with getting that permit.
And I would think any kind of a dock, we're talking next year. There's no way a dock would go in this year.
Probably not unless you found one
I don't think
on
there'd be the
sale.
time to have a dock company build it.
Remember, there are two docks up here that are part of this project. They're polyfloat docks. I can't remember if they have concrete decking on them or not. I think they do.
And where are those at?
They're up at the dog park.
Okay.
They actually border the dog park, and the function of them is to allow your dog to jump off the dock.
But they're not a dock that a boat could hook onto? or-
No, because they'll be surrounded by a boom,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
log boom,
Okay.
to prevent that exact thing happening. The dog park had the log boom around it. The budget was such that it wouldn't allow awarding the log boom that continues through this area here to protect the beach. And so when Ignite, when the city awarded the project, they didn't award that segment because it would have pushed us beyond the funding and kept our contingency in place. The numbers that I quoted you earlier anticipate installing that log boom because myself and Bill, I think the city thinks that's very important in front of this beach area so boats don't navigate into that area or beach themselves there. And it also anticipates awarding the irrigation pump station, which, remember, the logic behind that is it reduces his expense, the city's Parks Department expense for irrigating the park substantially. It has about I think it was a 6 or 7 year return, rate of return on investment. So both of those things have been important, have been Bill's number one and number two things. If he could add, he would head there, and then his third one is landscaping.
It didn't seem like that pump was that big of a return when you figure the cost of the pump. It was, maybe it is in 6 or 7 years it pays back. It was down the road.
Yeah, their irrigation bill, and again, I'm kind of going from memory, is something like, I think we've estimated it at like $40-some thousand a year here potentially.
Yeah.
Further questions or comments?
I guess we'll talk about the dock down the road when we see some more numbers, right?
Yeah, and what we'll do is, as we're getting a little more refined here, is that this is helpful for me to go back and talk to Bill and talk with Tony about it. Gives us a little bit of direction where the board might be thinking about, and we can start putting some ideas, menu together for you guys to think about.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few initiative updates. The Memorial Grandstand renovation still on task to be completed this spring. You see, they've got the roof on. It's coming together. So haven't been told that there's any unforeseen challenges on that project. And finally, on the health corridor district traffic study, we're going to have our second meeting hopefully next week with Ignite, City of Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai Health, KMPO, and ITD to discuss a draft request for proposal document that KMPO has put together. It's a fine document, and they have agreed to take the lead. Their board has agreed to take the lead on this effort and shepherding through the RFP process. So that should be issued by mid-March. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Tony. Any board commissioner comments?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank Tony for the annual report that he gave to City Council last night. I think that it highlighted again a lot of the great projects that Ignite has done, and Tony did an excellent job of presenting to the council, so I just wanted to thank him for that.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Good job, Tony. Any other board commissioner comments? It's our second opportunity for public comment. Any public comment?
Good afternoon, Greg Johnson, downtown resident. So from the last time we met to this time last month, we have a new design from Midtown Ventures. Third time looks like it might be the charm. 3-story building, nice curb appeal. So that was my comment on that. So my question is, by pushing it over, going north and opening that larger green space, that green space is, correct me, that is the property that Mr. Butler owns. That's the junk building there. And then it takes care of the parking easement issue with the Capones. So my question is, what happens? Ignite is no longer tied to making sure that that stays a green space. Is that, would that be proper, since there's no strings attached now that Mr. Butler has pushed the building over to Ignite property that he is purchasing and building a building and all that, but he bought the green space junk building, and he can do whatever he wishes with it, correct? And no connection to Ignite, making sure that there's a green space in this project. Is that, am I reading that right?
No.
There's our attorney.
Okay. So what, tell me, so tell me, is he still tied to making sure that that stays a green space?
So I believe it is the intent of the board, as expressed previously, that a green space would be a requirement of the development agreement, so he would have to develop it into a green space.
Okay.
We typically don't do deed restrictions, which would require it to be a green space for eternity, but we will require him to initially develop it into a green space.
That would be my concern, that, again, we appreciate him putting skin in the game and buying that property and making this project viable, and him getting the project, all that. It was just one of those things where, who's to say that that does not stay a green space, since it is owned by Mr. Butler? As long as it's connected to an agreement with Ignite and all that, then I'll be quiet. I just want to make sure that 2 years down the road, we need another restaurant or whatever, and there's an opportunity to build on that lot, that that green space doesn't go away, and Mr. Butler's able to build a restaurant on that property. That was my only concern, so, thank you.
Okay. Can I pose a quick question, Mr. Chairman? So, you know, for me, I see something on this, like a development agreement when you have a plan unit development, and then I would think after the Lake District expires, that would be enforced by the city, just like they do in a PUD or anywhere else where there's been an agreement.
Well, I mean, it's not a PUD, right? That is,
No, it's not a PUD.
kind of governs the utilization of the land. The development agreement just governs the actual development of the project. And like I said, typically we don't do deed restrictions on property related to our projects, just because, as we all know, deed restrictions can be very cumbersome 20, 30, 50 years down the road. We've found some of those 100-year-old deed restrictions that cause a lot of heartache. So if we wanted to enter into some sort of longer-term agreement, we would probably be looking at something like a deed restriction, because typically all of your, pre-property transfer agreements merge into the deed when the property is transferred, which is why you have to restrict the deed. So I guess we would need to know how the board feels about the long-term enforceability. Usually, we just enforce those agreements until the district expires, which is coming quickly on the Lake District. So probably something for us to think about and you all to think about and, decide how we want to address that.
I don't know the exact vehicle to do it, but I just threw the PUD out as an example, because being an old planning and zoning commissioner, I've seen a lot of development agreements done in PUDs and then it was enforced by the planning department and code enforcement, if the conditions weren't lived up to in the future. So I'd be interested in looking into that when everyone's in agreement on what's going in there right now, but you don't know in the future, 10, 15 years down the road, the Butlers could sell the project to somebody else, and then, time passes by and you never know what happens in the future. But I think right now, Butlers and everyone's in agreement on what's going in there and what that use is going to be.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the board is moving ahead with the project with the green space in place. I think that's what the public has expected, is a green place and space. So I would look to see if we could have some type of deed restriction. I think that's a good idea. He could, after 2 or 3 years, maybe he feels that there needs to be more parking there, and he could pave over the top of the green space and create a bigger parking lot, where I don't think that's the intent of the board, is to have that green space turn into a parking lot. So if we could explore that, how we could do that, and maybe Hillary has some ideas on what we could do there too, to make sure that, that's preserved as a green space going into the future.
We can certainly look at that. It does add another layer of complexity that we don't own that land, so we would have to get him to agree to encumber his property to the extent that it's on his property, but we can certainly talk to him about that as part of the negotiations under the DDA.
Well, and I'll just say this, I won't keep going on with this, but I've seen a lot of plats done in PUDs and so forth, where there's been a green space as part of the neighborhood and so forth. And the city doesn't necessarily own the green space, but there's been some kind of an agreement done to where that's part of the approval. And then that's the way it's supposed to stay, and the city has the power to enforce it. So I don't know the mechanism, but I'm sure John will stick by his word, and I don't think there's any disagreement on what's going in there now. But as Steve said, time goes on, a few years go by, property changes hands, new owner comes in, who knows what happens.
We can certainly explore it.
Thanks.
Any more public comment?
As you know, my name is Art Oliver, and I bring one comment that was passed to me from one of the members of our team, and it was basically a minor concern. Right now we show false flat roof designs on the perimeter of the buildings, and she would like to see a more traditional roof line, like pitched roof, 12-1 both sides instead of a long angular. And I haven't had a chance to talk to her, but it's a false front. It would not change anything as far as the flat roof and the mechanical characteristics behind that skyline roof line you see. Most of that is all going to be for ductless air conditioning and heating systems to get down to those apartments, since it's got a wonderful utilization of about 80% glass to wall ratio in apartments. So I think that's really something wonderful. So her concern was more of a traditional roof instead of a long angular line. Put a pitch in the middle of it, stay with your 12-1 design. And it still fit with 3 buildings. So that was it. My next comment is a personal comment. We've been meeting with you since 2008, and God knows, 6 designs later, horrific presentations. Mr. Butler's done an admirable job of meeting the community's desire for something that you would like to live next door to. The design is modern. It gives a lot of space to the street with the use of the balconies. I've always been a balcony guy. I don't know why, but it brings a little bit of party life to the sidewalk from the sky. So that is some of the initial things that we talked about years and years ago, a soft, homey feature. These buildings are home-like. A strong component is someone would want to live there. The only thing I miss, and it's a personal desire, I would have liked to see more owner-occupied structures, so the community has permanency. You can stay, as those of us who have bought homes in the neighborhood, we stay. But it's a sign of the times. We have to give people a chance to come from educational, non-educational environments, start a life and go forward. We have a mix of studio or single family, single bedroom, two people type apartments. I think it's great. It's a good addition to the community. As far as the green space goes, I know Danielle will probably get us an answer. Your involvement for the project stands strictly to the lands that you sold to Butler. You own the land, you're selling it to him, you have probably control in terms of development and conscious input to the outward design. I commend you for being as patient. We have been patient too. We've sat through some pretty interesting moments and drawn some pretty dark lines in the ground, and I think we've come out with 11 years worth of effort to something the city can be proud of. And I want to thank you for your effort, and we're not all bad. You know, we don't carry dark hats and run around with pitchforks and stuff. So, but Mr. Butler owns the land. He now knows about he said he missed the Schedule B parking requirements that the Capones have. It's in perpetuality. But that caused 2 design changes, you know, and we can't comment on something until it's designed. So now we have something that I think will meet the needs of the neighborhood. We have retail space for a donut shop, a coffee shop, a small mercantile, whatever. It'll do well. And I want to thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session.
I will make a motion to enter executive session under 74-206D to consider records that are exempt from disclosure as provided in Chapter 1, Title 74 of Idaho Code.
Second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mandel, sorry. Arman?
Yes.
Whitmire?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
We're in executive session, and that's a wrap.